The first time I heard my name drilled into a meme was 3 years ago on a muggy January afternoon, the kind when Johannesburg's rain clouds hung so low I could almost taste the ozone. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. I thought it was just group chat gossip or another forwarded joke from my Aunt Farida. Then Sam called, barely containing his laughter, only pretending to care. He told me to open Twitter. He didn't even give me a chance to brace myself. I saw it first as a hashtag, castle in the sky, my photo, awkward wild-haired mouth half open while talking, snapped by someone at my cousin's engagement party, was pasted onto a cartoon skyscraper. Someone had written in bold, deliberately tacky font, "When you think being an architect means building Hogwarts, fantasy Noor." Noor, that's me. Noor Ali, age 24 at the time, graduate of Wits University, aspiring architect, dreaming of designing buildings that could taste the sky, buildings the city might someday point at with pride rather than avoidance. Underneath, the comments bit deeper than glass shards. Why doesn't she design a bridge to reality? Maybe she can draft a house for unicorns too? LMAO, girl, you know Santon Mal exists already, right? Screenshots made it to the family WhatsApp groups. Mubin, my oldest brother, sent 5 straight-faced emojis in a row then. "You are imaginative, I'll give you that." My mother, in her way, called late that night and said, "Noor, beta, ignore them. But why don't you focus on something practical while you dream?" Even my little cousin Faze took a jab on his TikTok, holding up my sketchbook while imitating my hand gestures and snorting into the microphone. I wish I could say the laughter rolled off my back, that I was made of sterner stuff, but the truth is each jab stayed in me for days, weeks. I'd been trying to explain my project, a proposal for a vertical library and community garden, a sky haven meant not for Santon or Rosebank but for Mayfair South, where green was a rumour and roofs crumbled with every summer storm. The city council had posted an open design call. I saw it as my moon landing. Everyone else saw it as the start of a joke. I stopped posting my work online, keeping even my best sketches hidden between bedsheets, the corners growing so soft from nervous touching they were almost fraying. Around the neighborhood, old friends would ask, too casually, "So when's the Hogwarts library opening?" I tried to laugh along. Humiliation became patience, though not by choice, more by attrition. The daily grind of small, real tasks dulled the flaming shame. I waited tables at Uncle Zahir's coffee shop, prepared applications for junior architect positions, submittals so thick with conformity my heart barely beat as I read them. At night I traced building outlines in the fog of my bedroom window, wishing for some spark, some sign that I hadn't been ridiculous to dream. There were small resistances. My friend Thembai stuck by, dragging me out for fruit smoothies on the breezy rooftop of her Hillbrow apartment. She'd perch her chin on her hand, always listening, always repeating, "They mock what scares them, Noor. You'll scare them into silence, just wait." I didn't believe her, but sometimes when I sketched in her company, the ridicule faded. I applied to architectural contests obsessively, mourning each rejection with a new page of sketches. There was the Rain Mirror Pavilion that garnered one semi-finalist mention online. Nobody in my world noticed. When I finally landed a job at a middling firm downtown, I told myself I'd won, but postponing the dream did little to soothe me. The days became a treadmill, site visits, frothy coffee, endless changes to uninspired apartment layouts. All the while, the meme still popped up now and then, shared at parties, whispered in the corner of family gatherings. I learned to duck my head to make my voice smaller and less filled with yearning. Time dulled the shame, but it never quite left. When Jenny, my project leader at work, tough, red-lipped, a veteran of mining town renovations, caught me doodling one afternoon, she paused, then asked, "You ever think of proposing something bold for the downtown redevelopment?" I shook my head reflexively, feeling that old fear prickle my skin like a rash. But she pressed on, sifting through my crumpled pages until she found my Sky Haven sketches. She didn't laugh. Instead, she tapped the page and muttered, something like this could put us on the map. "You want to help pitch?" I almost said no, but the longing was still somewhere inside me. I nodded. The work that followed felt unsteady at first, like learning to run after years of hobbling. We built a proposal for a derelict lot in Maboneng, a spiraling, multi-tiered community centre that drew from the garden library I'd been mocked for years before. Jenny made me revise, cut, add. She pushed the deadline so hard I sometimes slept on foam mats in the office. When we pitched to the municipal board, I wore my one good black blazer and a powder blue hijab, smoothing both nervously. I kept waiting for someone to snicker. Instead, they listened. 50 minutes of my life where at last every eye in the room found what I said plausible. Months passed. More waiting, more grinding at anonymous floor plans in shadowy rooms, but a thread of hope kept me from unraveling. One August morning, Jenny stormed into the office shouting my name. Noor, they picked us. She gripped my hands so hard in her own that my knuckles turned white. Later that day, confirmation came in a slick PDF signed by the city manager. The proposal with my name on the masthead was attached, selected for Phase 1 funding, $12 in initial investment. I called them by first. We screamed into our phones, scaring the birds on her balcony. My parents took some convincing. My mother was suspicious at first, then bustled around offering prayers of thanks. My brothers were stunned into a silence that felt almost reverent. But the real test, which I couldn't have admitted even to myself, was coming home back to Mayfair, into the heart of everyone who had doubted, dismissed, even loved and protected in a bruising sort of way. No ceremony had been scheduled, just a simple groundbreaking with city officials, press, and the design team. My parents fussed over my clothes, forbidden to reveal the news to distant relatives. I wanted them there, but I needed the proof first. The day dawned sharp and golden, Johannesburg's sunlight scattered across the quiet streets, the kind of morning you'd almost believe anything was possible. The grounds at the project lot weren't much, just stretches of brown grass, broken pavement, the ruins of some long-gone warehouse. My hands shook as I crossed it, my badge, Noor Ali, lead architect, swinging against my chest. Camera crews gathered, local councillors made speeches. I was called forward, and for the first time I spoke publicly of my dream, how there could be places where children grew up believing beauty belonged to them, not just richer city neighbours. I spoke carefully, treading between pride and gratitude. Afterward, a reporter from ENCA asked for a quick interview. My voice came out steadier than I expected. From the edge of the lot I saw them, my family, old friends, some who'd forwarded those memes long ago, now gathering in neat, curious clusters. There was my Uncle Hamza, who once joked at a wedding that I'd design space castles for donkeys. There were my brothers, their faces cautious. And there by the barricade, my old primary school teacher, Mrs. Tao, who had looked apologetic when I'd failed maths, then quietly encouraged me. It was then that the mayor's aide brought out the press board, a giant rendering of the community centre as it would rise, the blue glass and copper accents shining, terraces staggered with green. There, highlighted in white, design laid Noor Ali, my background merged with the city skyline. They saw it. I watched the realization trickle through my uncle's eyes, the same mocking crinkle in his brow but now softened by awe. My cousin Sumi, who'd never quite met my gaze, sidled over. "Is that really your design, Noor?" she asked, voice lower than I remembered. I nodded. The official photographs swept the next day through my WhatsApp groups. My parents sent them to their friends, adding only "our Noor the architect." No hashtags, no jokes. In the following weeks, every site visit brought new witnesses from my old world. Little kids from the block ran in circles around the survey stakes, peeking at my sketches when I knelt to review measurements. Once I caught Mrs. Tao outside the fences. I waved her in. She beamed as though she had seen this moment decades ago, even when I couldn't. Old wounds remained, the faint flavor of humiliation stubborn as rust, but a slow healing grew in their place, something like pride, if not yet forgiveness. I began to glimpse my reflection with less cringing, more acceptance. Construction was slow, arguments frequent. Rumors flew about budget cuts or delays. Each challenge tried my patience anew. I learned to push my team kindly but firmly, even when some thought me too soft-spoken. The day the first level was completed, I climbed the scaffold alone at dawn. Sunlight spilled over the city, rooftops glowing, and for a brief moment I thought about the meme, that awkward face on a fairy tale tower, and how this view was real, unedited mine. The building rose week by week, each step marked by dirt under my nails and the growing certainty that the impossible was only a beginning. One Saturday, well into the final phases, my mother visited. She stood quietly beside me, her sari tugging in the dusty wind, and ran her hand over the polished blue tiles. "When people look at this, Noor," she said, voice thickening, "they'll know you didn't imagine too much. Maybe you imagined just enough." Her faith warmed places still sore from old doubts. When the centre opened, whole blocks turned out, kids in iron school uniforms, old men with walking sticks, women in bright scarves. Locals tested library chairs, plucked tomatoes from the rooftop beds, and stared at the skyline, a skyline now changed by something that began as a joke. That day, I walked through each level, pausing on the highest terrace. Below, through the glass, I could see teachers reading stories, teens sketching, elders sharing tea under the vines. For just an instant, I stood at the edge, my city stretched beneath me, a city that felt suddenly possible, a future no longer tinged with fear. I came home that evening trailing dust and exhaustion, but when I passed through my mother's garden gate, the neighbors on their stoops nodded. One waved. Uncle Hamza called from across the yard, his tone almost shy, "Noor, we knew you'd do something big." I smiled, not with arrogance but with the quiet, hard-won certainty that comes from surviving one's own laughter and pain. I had returned not as the joke, but as the answer. That night when Thembai called, I didn't tell her how it felt. I let the silence say it, full of all that patience, humiliation, and finally the glow of homecoming. And as I lay in bed, the moon high over Johannesburg, I allowed myself at last to rest.